Hello everybody, and welcome to the Sleep Sleeper series. On this episode, we're starting it off a little bit different, and that's because of some comments that were left in the last video, as well as on a decently old video of mine, the original tier list video that's kind of the baseline of this entire video, and that is because I wanted to address some things that I kind of noticed after some of you guys brought up to me in the comments, and that is the tier list itself. Now, tier listing is an innately flawed process because you're trying to compare things that honestly don't necessarily deserve to be compared because they do very different jobs. Realistically, if you wanted to get this accurately, you'd have to break it down to like their individual roles within it, but then like a tier list of the energy for everyone Pokemon would be a really simple tier list. I mean, it'd just be 3 Pokemon, big whoop. So like bringing it down by role isn't necessarily the best way. I think it's more interesting to look at it this way, even if it is a bit more flawed. And that led to, in my last video where I talked about this stuff, I made a couple mistakes. And you guys kind of pointed that out to me in the comments. And they're mistakes that I'm surprised I wasn't aware of. So, first one I want to discuss is the rat. The rat in the room. I talked a lot about the rattata in my last video. Because if you look here, in my last video, I currently have the previous one right here. This is what it was previously. I put the rattata up in B tier, but someone made it apparent to me that this rattata, or this Raticate, really isn't that great. I don't know what I was on when I put this guy up in B tier and I compared it to F tier with like the Marowak. In some ways the Marowak actually has more going for it than the Raticate, because it's at a better island. But if you look here, I just put in some of the berry specialists that I ranked a little bit lower, anything below S tier, because obviously the S tier ones are undeniably the best at what they do, but anyone that I put below that, I kind of plugged and chugged through the Rain on X calculator to get an idea that with Berry Finding S, how strong would they be? And I found that the Rattata, or the Raticate, yeah, it's better than the Arbok, and it is better than the Marowak, but not that much in terms of raw output. And honestly, I think the Marowak's at a much better island. Snowdrop is kind of crappy, so given that, they're about equal in value and output, roughly. And they also, a big thing working against these 3 berry specialists is that they have the main skill Charge Energy S, which is kind of wasted on berry specialists. It works very well on ingredient specialists who want to be swapping quite a bit, but if you're having a berry specialist, you just kind of want to leave it on the team. So having Charge Energy S is kind of redundant with a healer, so which is a main part of the meta. As you can see up here in S tier, Gardevoir, the only reason why Wiggly and Sylveon are down in A tier instead of S tier is because they are just a substitute for the Gardevoir, realistically. So, given that, the Raticate, there's no way it belongs in B tier. It definitely belongs down in F tier, right alongside the Marowak. I actually put it below it, despite being slightly stronger, just because it is at a worse island. Top has way better things to see than Snowdrop does. So, after addressing that one, I also want to discuss Clefable. Now, Clefable is another one that, if you really look at the numbers here, it's not really all that much stronger than, like, the Raticate. Yeah, 1,000 is a bit more of a difference than, like, 300. In fact, it's actually about 1,400. But I also really don't like its main skill, and its ingredient synergy isn't all that great as well. I mean, it's got apples and, I think, cocoa or honey, which is decently synergistic. There's a few meals that take apples and honey, but they're not the strongest meals. So, now, berry specialists, their ingredients don't make too big of an impact unless they're producing a lot of them. Like, the Raichu makes a shockingly great amount of ingredients. So I do kind of consider it on the Raichu and some other berry specialists that have a higher ingredient rate, like the Marowak. But, yeah, it doesn't really have all that much going for it. But I'm not bumping it down to F tier because it does indeed have an interesting niche on metronome-based teams, which I think is kind of fun. So instead, I'm bumping it down to D tier. because it does have that metronome skill, which can fish for the legend skill. And given the fact that it is a fairy type, it also increases the value of that skill when used on another metronome Pokemon. Given that it's kind of used exclusively for that metronome skill, I'm going to put it right alongside the Togetic. Probably just below it, because the Togetic's more important on that team than the Clefable is. But I can't justify putting it up there when it's competing with the likes of Feraligatr for its main island, and Dodrio even. It's weaker than Dodrio, who's a secondary competitor for Cyan for its berry. So I just figured I'm going to move the Clefable down to D tier for that reasoning. Now, I'm also going to address Altaria, because after making this realization about some of these Pokemon, I decided to review Altaria, because Altaria has a lot of the same issues as the Raticate, the Arbok, and the Marowak have, in a sense that it's a relatively slow berry specialist that has Charge Energy, yes, which, as I described, is kind of a waste of a skill on a berry specialist. And because of that, I considered dropping it, but it is actually significantly, there's a decent amount of difference between the Raticate and the Altaria. So it's like a decent step up. It's also got berry special. It's also the Dragon Berry, which is the strongest berry type in the game, which this doesn't really quantify that. It does take into account when it counts for the total value of the Pokemon's output per day, but it's missing one key detail, which is the fact that if you're running it alongside an Arcanine or a Jolteon or a Gallade or one of the Legends, when their main skill procs, you're going to get more value out of the Altaria than you are out of, say, the Marowak, because the berry is stronger. So, given that it has a bit better synergy with them, and also, it's one of the few Pokemon that produces eggs at a shockingly high ingredient rate as well, of about 25%. Given that, eggs are a really rare ingredient, and some of the best specialists for it are on Snowdrop, which is one of the worst islands. And they may not be the most useful ingredient now in the meta, but they're a rare one. And given that, it gives the Altaria a little bit of extra niche usage. I decided to drop it, but not nearly as far as the Clefable and the Raticate. Just from B down to C tier. I think it's better than the Slacking. I'll put it just below the Togetic. Because Togekiss. Because the Togekiss is, it's like the figurehead of those metronome teams. That's kind of funny. But that's really niche, so actually, yeah, sure, I'll put it. Well, and the Crocolore is really only used for fire teams. So, just below Pinsir. Because Pinsir can do a lot with desserts. You know, the Altaria is just kind of in a weird spot. If the Altaria gets a really strong island, then I think it could see a bit more usage. Because its competitors for an island are the Arbok and the Butterfree. However, it is competing with the Butterfree, who, as you can see here, does produce more overall value, but some of that's not really in the berries itself. Some of that's in ingredients from its main skill. Meanwhile, the Altaria's, it doesn't really account for that because its main skill isn't really contributing anything. So with Favored Berry, in fact, actually you can see this. If we have Favored Berry, then it gets a little bit closer. The Butterfree still does come out on top, but it's interesting to look at, and I decided to drop down the Altaria for those reasons. Another one of you guys brought up to me in the comments was the Slow Twins, Slow King and Slow Bro, that I put in B tier. I agree, but probably not for the reasons that you commented. I'm going to move them down, but just because of the way that I defined these categories, I defined B as generally strong, and after thinking over it a bit more, I don't think the Slow Twins are generally strong. I don't think you can just put them on a team and not really think about what their role is on the team, and it's going to be a generally strong Pokemon. They can be really strong when used in tandem with the Suicune to overproduce Tails. They can be really strong as the healers on a Suicune-based team on, say, Cyan. But if just used, they're not what I consider to be generally strong. They are strong when used right. And given that that is my literal definition of C tier, so I just have to bump them down, But I think they're at like the top of C tier because they're probably some of the easiest ones to figure out how they're used in the meta compared to these other ones. Like the pot expanders, you need to be producing a lot of ingredients. And you need to know like the strategy of Monday morning having a huge pot size increase to just get one big boost right away. You really got to kind of game it. Meanwhile, the slow twins, it's kind of obvious how to use them. And energy recovery is good if they're reliable at doing it. And they also produce tails. So, given all those factors, I bumped them down, but only to C tier. And then I wanted to address Bennett. Because this is one that, after reconsidering, I decided to actually move it the opposite direction. Bennett is a bit stronger than I first initially thought. In fact, it's actually stronger than the Dodrio, which I ranked above it. And Bennett is at what I believe is to be a stronger island. Now, it is competing with the Raichu and the Gengar even for berry production, and the Steelix. So it's got a lot of competition that are all in S tier, but I defined A tier as substitutes for S. Bennett is literally just a substitute for S. That's actually stronger than the substitute for Feraligatr, which Feraligatr is weaker than Raichu. So I mean, like, Bennett being significantly, like, it's not even just slightly stronger than the Dodrio. It's significantly stronger than the Dodrio. I ranked Bennett much lower than it deserved, so I'm moving it up into A tier. As a substitute for Raichu, I think it probably goes right about, probably right about the, well, I think there's more to offer at Lapis, so I think the Primeape's a bit more useful in the meta. There's even a bit more at top than I think at well, we do have Raichu and Vikavolt at Old Gold Power Plant. It's just very late game, so I'll put it there. Just between the Primeape and the Ninetales. And then another change I wanted to make, Houndoom. Houndoom is an interesting one because I don't think I would have moved it before, but they did just buff its main skill and give it a bit more strength per day. And because of that, it's actually kind of powered up a little bit. It's about close to the same power as Dodrio. And given that, I'm actually moving it from B to the very, very bottom of A. Because it's, once again, it's just a weaker version of Walrein, realistically. And it's actually closer in value to the one that it's competing with, because Dodrio is competing with Feraligatr, who's stronger than Walrein, so, like, it's pretty comparable in how well they substitute for that role. It is at a weaker island, so I put it beneath the Dodrio, because I'd rather go to Cyan than I would go to Snowdrop any day of the week. But it does, I think it does deserve that little bit of boost now that it's just gotten a slight buff. Now, things that I didn't change but I would like to address, because I either saw them in the comments or they underwent changes that I just want to discuss their role in the meta. First is Umbreon. Umbreon just recently underwent a massive change. It is one of the first Pokemon to receive a change to their main skill, aside from the Houndoom, as I discussed before. Which I've got some interesting ideas about that, but maybe I'll go over that in a different video. That's a different topic. But anyway, Umbreon. It received a change to its main skill. It's now Moonlight. It has a chance to great success, and when it great successes, it gives a little bit of energy to another Pokemon on the team. The thing is, it doesn't great success all that often, and when it does great success, it's less energy than Energizing Cheer. So given that, it's hardly outputting any energy to the rest of the team. And it's basically running into the same issues as the Wobbuffet. The Wobbuffet was an Energizing Cheer Pokemon, or it is an Energizing Cheer Pokemon, but it's so low because it's not even that great at proccing its skill, and it's horrendously slow that it only contributes to its skill. At least the Umbreon does give some berries, but while I think Moonlight is a buff, don't get me wrong, the Umbreon is stronger. The closed loop, that issue that the Umbreon had before this update, has been broken. The closed loop has been broken. It is better than before, but yeah, it's still really just a closed loop with just a little bit of leakage is kind of the way that I think of it. So I don't think it actually moves his positioning in comparison to the other Pokemon, even though it is stronger. He moved like from being here to like being here. Oh, nope, not quite there. Like that. Nope. Like there. But still in the same position relative to the others. I'd also like to address Toxicroak and Luxray. One of you guys made it apparent to me in a comment that Luxray and Toxicroak. I ranked the Toxicroak higher than the Luxray. And one of you guys was like, well, if you do the numbers, Luxray is actually better at producing oil than Toxicroak. And I've run the numbers on this myself. That is, in fact, true if we take a look at the two Pokemon. If we just plug them into here, make them level 60, and make them their respective mono oil build. As you can see, the Toxicroak is outperformed by the Luxray, and the Luxray does have a nicer skill, which is that it increases the pot size to 50 ingredients that they're overproducing. So it really should be ranked higher than the Toxicroak if you... I put a huge asterisk with that should of it, if you are following the mono ingredient meta. Which is kind of the way the community has looked at the meta of this game. But I kind of have a bit of a different perspective on what is good and what is not in this game. I like to think about mixed ingredient combos a bit more than other players do. And given that, I've kind of recognized that Toxicroak has a really unique ability, in a sense that it produces potato or sausage and oil, which, if it has sausage and oil, it's producing two of the ingredients on this Defiant Coffee Dressed Salad, which is one of the best salads in the game. Or, no, literally the best salad, and not just best salad, the best meal in the entire game, which is very, very powerful. And I think that the mixed oil sausage Toxicroak is stronger than some people realize. So, I still am putting it up in A. It's not really fitting that definition that I gave. The definitions aren't perfect, but they're a general guideline. Because it's not really substituting anything in S tier. But I still think it's very, very powerful and just deserves a placement for that unique role that it brings. If you look at it for that purpose. Mono Oil is also good. It's got potential as a Mono Oil Pokemon as well. And so does the Luxray. You know, given that it's got the oil, and that oil is that high up, maybe it does deserve a little bit of a boost, but, I mean, compared to sausage is in the top salad, apples are in the top dessert, Blastoise still has nice synergy, so, like, I just don't know what I would bump down to move the Luxray up is the problem, because I still think it deserves to be an A tier, but I do think that having two ingredients in that top meal is tremendously powerful for the Toxicroak. So I'm going to kind of leave those ones where they're at. And then I also want to address Energizing Cheer. Energizing Cheer just recently underwent another change where it now is more likely to proc on lower energy Pokemon, which is huge. The biggest flaw with Energizing Cheer is that it doesn't always give energy to the Pokemon that need it, and that wastes a lot of energy production. Now, if adding more reliability to it just makes it straight outright better. I'm not moving any Pokemon around for it, though, because we really don't have the numbers for how much this is impacting the skill's value, as it's kind of just... Nobody's really running them to get the experimental data to figure out what those numbers really are. I mean, I'm sure you could find the numbers if you worked hard enough, but the difference is going to be kind of minimal, and there's still going to be waste, so it's not really impacting the skill's value overall. And I think it doesn't move any of the Energizing Cheer Pokemon that are there. I think we have a very Umbreon situation of it. They move from like halfway down from where they're at to like halfway up from where they're at, but it doesn't actually shift them at all in terms of the tier list. So, and then the final thing that I want to do in regards to the tier list is add the new Pokemon that we just got in the game, Mimikyu. Mimikyu is cool. I like Mimikyu. I made a breaking news video about Mimikyu and what my initial thoughts are on it, based off its skill trigger rate, the way the skill functions, the berries it provides, and I think it's good. I have very high hopes. I hope to see it being meta. It doesn't quite fill the role that I was initially hoping it would fill. In terms of the teams, it's more like a weird, more complicated version of Charge Strength M than anything else. that's more difficult to synergize, but it's really balanced, actually, in my opinion, against the charge strength Pokemon. Eventually, it may be stronger as berry levels go up if the charge strength M levels never go up any further than level 7, because we haven't been promised level 7 skills, but I think it's very comparable to the Ampharos. That honestly, I think they balanced it really, really well, and I think that like they could be equal with each other in terms of strength. But given that you can min-max the Mimikyu's skill a bit more than what you can do with the charge strength M, I will put it a bit above the Ampharos, just ever so slightly, because pair it with strong berry Pokemon, and it does make the skill stronger. And it has that chance to crit, which I don't know if the Random calculator currently accounts for the chance to crit or not. If it doesn't, then the Mimikyu is actually probably stronger than the Ampharos just baseline, so I'm putting it slightly above the Ampharos up in S tier. Unfortunately, it is a very hefty investment. I don't think it's the Pokemon for everyone just because of how much it costs for what it provides when you can have an Ampharos, which is about the same strength, but takes 2 less main skill seeds. Or I guess only 1 less main skill seed because the skill level is 1 higher. But yeah, it's just the interesting conclusion about all of this. So, this is the new state of the tier list. I am going to download it to my computer so that I have it for the future. We're just going to name it that. I now have it downloaded so that I can reference it in future videos. Anyway, let's actually get into this video. Now, into the sleep session from this video. I do need to collect from my Pokemon first. I found that on this phone, with how slow it's been, it just leads to a lot of load screens if I do the meals on here with you guys. The meals, the baseline collections, the opening of the daily gifts, any badges. The loading screens take quite a while, and I in my mind, it was decreasing the quality of the videos. So maybe it wasn't. Maybe you guys actually liked those things. If you liked those things and you want to see them come back, if you want to see me make the meals on here and kind of what goes into my thought process with the meals, they don't take much thought right now. But if you want to see them on this account still, then let me know in the comments. But if I don't see any complaints that I'm dropping them and the daily gift and all those things, then please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to keep leaving them out and just primarily do the sleep session and show you the teams that I'm prepping for the day. Anyway, last night I did in fact use a Halloween hat Pikachu incense and a friend incense. I'm really hoping that it spawns in hungry, because Halloween hat Pikachu is the top of my priority list for this week on this account, as it is one of the only Pokemon that I can legally catch. However, I will say the changes to this tier list actually do change what I can and cannot catch. Slowpoke is actually in my realm of catching now, since the Slow Twins are down here. Altaria I can catch. It does open up more options for this account, but if I see them, but tonight I'm not really going to be worrying about them. My primary focus is the Pikachu, which I know is going to be there because of the incense. So, looks like we're getting 5 spawns. We have a 2-star sleep out there, but we're going to have 6 spawns. Feels kind of nice. The real question is which one's going to be hungry. And will the witch hat be... Oh, this one will be a purple hat. Yes. Purple band hat, because that's what the incense one does. Witch hat Pika, please come to me. It is the one thing that I want that is to be good. Because if I don't get it now, I don't know if I'll ever get it. And it's a Pokemon that people aren't going to actually send me candies for. Which means this thing should be just about one of the easiest Pokemon for me to level. Shuppet? I just recently bumped this guy up into A tier, which means even if it was shiny, I could not use it. Meowth. Oh, a second Halloween hat Pika. Yes! I'm definitely going to try and catch 2. Not so sure that will happen because, I mean, the odds are pretty low with only regular Poke Biscuits available to me. I don't think I have a Great Biscuit. If I have one, I'm definitely willing to spend one for this purpose, since it is a one time per year event. And the Halloween Hat Pikachu is just so huge for this account, if I catch a good one. So it is worthwhile for me to spend the Great Biscuit if I'm able. I don't know if I have one, though, so that's the problem with that plan. Alrighty, let's see what's hungry. Please be a Halloween Pika. Yes! Let's go! Oh, that friend instance was so worth it. It was the only thing to spawn hungry, which means that came from the friend incense. Oh, that makes me so happy. Insta-catch on the Halloween hat. I really hope it's good. I do have a Great Biscuit, so we're going to try to catch the other one as well. The odds are pretty slim. Because I basically would have to get a crit on one of these last 4. Theoretically, it's possible without a crit. It's just the odds are so slim. It's basically, what, like 12.5% without a crit? I don't know if they're all... Oh, it's all full. Okay. Well, that at least means it's got 3 pips left. I see the next one. It gets my daily biscuit. It's an insta-catch. I don't have to worry about it. As for this... I could start throwing some biscuits at the Meowth, I guess. I could prime it to be insta-caught next time. Normally I would not recommend doing anything for a Meowth. Ever. It's actually one of the Pokemon that, honestly, unless it has Berry Finding S, I'm not even that interested in it on this account, even. One that is especially dedicated to showing off bottom tiers. But Persian is so horrendously bad that I don't even know if I'm going to use it on this account. Maybe the account shouldn't be Raptor ZU. Maybe it should be, I don't even know what's one above ZU. It would be a snoozing type for the Pikachu. We're sending out that Pika candy, because it was probably the best thing that I saw this morning. It's either that or the Shuppet. But I think Raichu's way better than Banette. Alrighty, we got about 400 or 500 Dream Shards. Not really at the point where Dream Shards are too much of a concern, but... there eventually will be a Dream Shard drought, as there is on my main account. Brave Nature. That is amazing. If this thing has Berry Finding S... If it has Berry Finding S, I am going to be so happy I might shed a tear. Let's see. Oh, darn. I shouldn't have said anything. I mean, it's worth running. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to run it. It is a Berry Specialist. Berry Specialists are great. It's got Speed of Help up. Fantastic. I just want something that can be a good, reliable, long-term investment for this account from a Halloween Hat Pikachu, just because there's so much potential with the amounts of candies that I'll be getting over the other Pokemon that I'm running. So, but I am happy with Brave Nature. Don't get me wrong. This is great. It's probably the best berry finder that I have still. Probably, yeah, definitely the best berry finder I've found in this entire game so far on this account. So, we're going to swap it in. What should I replace? Honestly, definitely not the Drifloon for this week, because the Drifloon has the favored berry as well as the extra skill procs and the extra skill level. It's definitely the strongest Pokemon on my team for this week specifically. As for the rest of the Pokemon on this team, I don't remember what the Sudowoodos and the Eevee's sub-skills are. I probably could drop the Wobbuffet, because I just don't have enough... I don't have enough main skill levels put into the Wobbuffet to really be worthwhile. So I don't need the healing necessarily, because it's not good healing. I mean, it's just a base Eevee, so nature is the only thing that makes a difference, and nature is just neutral, so that doesn't really matter. This Slakoth has Speed of Help down, but it's also a Berry Specialist, so really its output's being practically doubled. for a 10% loss in value. Wow, Sudowoodo is level 10, guys. Big step up in the world for him. He's got inventory up M. On a speed of help down Sudowoodo. This guy is never filling his inventory in the night, because it's already the slowest evolved Pokemon in the entire game for fully evolved. Add speed of help down into this thing, he procs once every hour and 12 minutes. For comparison, the Eevee I have is 1 hour. This Eevee is faster than the fully evolved Sudowoodo. After looking that over, I think this is definitely probably our target for swapping. Otherwise that or the Wobbuffet. But the Wobbuffet does have speed of help up, which is kind of nice, even if it does have main skill chance down. So I am actually going to swap out this I probably will send him to the professor not too much longer from now. But I'll keep him for now. But we are going to swap him off the team for the berry finding Halloween hat Pikachu that we just found. That's probably going to be one of our biggest contributors on this team, so yeah, interesting to see. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the content. It's a bit of a longer episode because I kind of wanted to discuss the changes to the tier list that I was making and what was legal for me. I want to make sure that you guys are updated on why I think certain Pokemon are the way they are and why I think that they are as bad as they are in the meta from my perspective. And why I think they should be legal for this account. Because I don't want to do this with accidentally picking up a Pokemon that's too powerful. I don't think any of you guys are going to complain, because as one of you guys said in the comments, you just like seeing someone using the Pokemon that never get used. So even just restricting myself to the A, B, or the C, D, and F Pokemon in here. That's a lot of Pokemon that people aren't really using. That includes the Absol, the Heracross, the Kangaskhan, and Pinsir. You don't see these on really any teams. You get up into B tier and you're starting to see some that people actually run. I've seen lots of people that run the Victory Bell. I've seen a lot of people that run the Venusaur. Not so much Butterfree or Mr. Mime, but Beware's pretty common. The Legends, despite being kind of B tier in my eyes, they are on almost everybody's accounts because they're kind of a novelty, but you really aren't seeing anything down here at all, aside from maybe like Drifblim, but I think Drifblim's only really being used because it's new, it's the newness effect. So, yeah. If you guys have enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, talk to me down in the comments. I like to respond when I get the chance. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. See you around.